Okay, once again, good morning to everybody who's joined us for this morning's webinar. My name is Leon and I'll be running through the webinar this morning. So today we are going to be having a look at the Draftworx Advanced topics. Now the introduction topics that we have been running, generally we're trying to focus on some common issues, especially that we pick up when we're doing our support with our remote support and support requests that come in. What we're going to look at today is some of the more advanced stuff, which is either new to Draftworx or maybe something that's been around but you haven't known it's there. And it's all things that we hope will make your life a little bit easier, whether it be in audit or preparing financial statements, preparing monthly management accounts, whatever the case might be. So we're going to look at a few general items first up, and those are going to apply just to some of the programming things that you'll see in Draftworx. And we'll have a look at a thing called Smart Docs as well, which is quite useful. Then we will go into some financial statements, look at some advanced editing within financial statements, and a lot of the stuff that we'll discuss on the financials is equally applicable to all your other working papers. So any other spreadsheet that you're using within Draftworx, the common elements will be there. Obviously there's some specific stuff that is only going to work on the financials, and when we get to that I'm sure you'll be able to see. We're then going to go and have a look at the developer tab. The developer tab has got a few very, very nice functions within Draftworx, and I'm just going to go through what some of the most relevant ones there are, just for you to have a look and see what is available. Then we're going to have a look at Resync. It's a fairly new feature for some. Just having a look at what that is all about. We're going to look at electronic review, some delegation. I'm going to do a little bit of consolidation. There is a lot more, and there is a detailed video available for full consolidations and how to go about it, but just a quick introduction to what it's all about, how you would start it. And then lastly, we're going to look at basically what one would do to go and create your own template. If there's something in our financials or in any of our working papers that you don't particularly like and you'd like to implement your own, just a few quick steps. I'm not going to go through the whole process in too much detail, but just to make you aware of it and what sort of things you can do. So unless there are any issues now, it seems everybody is hearing properly and seeing properly. Let's jump in and start having a look at some of our general topics. We will stop from time to time just for some questions. If you do have questions though in between, please pop your questions into the questions window in the GoToWebinar menu bar, basically, that is opened, and then I'll pick them up as soon as we get to any of the question and answer times, although I will just give an indication every now and again of an opportunity to go and ask your questions. Alright, I'm going to switch over to my Draftworx window, and as all of you should be aware, here we go. This is what happens when you open up Draftworx for the first time. You've got your client list. Now just maybe a little trick, if you have not seen this before, you'll see that my client list is not actually in alphabetical order. Just to make sure that the files that I want to use for training today are at the top, I've actually gone and just placed a few spaces in front of the name. And because of that, it sees space as coming before any letter. That will push any clients that have got spaces in the beginning of the name to the top of the list for you. So if there is one particular client that you know you're always working on a lot and you'd like to have access to it right on top, you can always go and add a space to the client. But also, if you've already created the client and you want to change that name, Draftworx doesn't initially give you the opportunity to do so, but in the File menu, once you click on Enable Client Rename, it doesn't look like it does anything, but now when you do click on a name, you'll see that it does highlight the text in the client name, and you'll actually be able to go and type in a new name. It then will warn you, are you sure you want to change the name? But if you are sure, obviously you can say yes and continue. Okay, the other thing I want to have a look at just in the client list, I just want to go and disable the client rename so that I don't accidentally change something. You'll see a couple of icons on the very right hand side. I'm just going to highlight these for you. It's these two over there. Right, that didn't work so well. Let me rather go and circle them. Okay. Now, the one here, slightly more to the left, looks like a padlock, and the one on the right is actually a little eye icon. And if you see them on your own computers, you will probably see them a little bit more clearly than what you do here. Now, those two are an indication that in the first place, this client is locked, so this training console, and on the right-hand side, this client has been enabled as a read-only file. Now this is all set up within the Access toolbar. Let me go back to standard. So if you look at the top on the ribbon, I'm going to click on Access, and this is where these options are sitting. Now firstly, a locked client may well be locked because you've transferred it from local to server, or vice versa from server to local. So there is a locked file there for a purpose. You don't want to accidentally go and edit something in that file because you've transferred it. You don't want duplicate files. But what if firstly you've transferred a file to your laptop and your laptop crashes, you can't recover the data, so you want to go and unlock that file, or in the case, and what we have seen users doing is they're voluntarily locking that client. So maybe they don't want anybody else to have access to it or make any changes for a period of time for whatever. You can actually go and manually lock it. Now that is the two buttons on the right in the access bar. All right, and with those two buttons, you would be able to lock or unlock a client. Simply need to go and select the client, click on the line that it's on, and go and click unlock if it's locked already. You will be prompted to give a password, firstly to log in, so you need to know the manager password, and secondly the specific password for that file. So you're actually able to, when you lock the file, specify a different password. So obviously you need to please remember what that different password is. We are able to recover the password for you. If you do have a file, maybe somebody locked it and put in a different password and forgot it, or left the company, or whatever the case might be, we can recover the password, but obviously that takes a little bit of time for us to get the file from you, open it up and find that password. But otherwise, you'll be prompted for two passwords, firstly the manager password and then the password for the file, and then that'll be unlocked. Vice versa, you can lock any file, just click on the file, click on lock, and again it'll ask you for the two passwords, one to log in as a manager, one to specify the password for that file. The other option is the enable read only. Now the intention behind enable read only and disable read only is particularly when you've gotten to the end of an audit or you've finished preparing a set of financial statements. You, the audit partner, or maybe the manager, decides that you no longer want any changes to this file. You not necessarily want to delete it or archive it, but you just want to basically enable that people can go into the file, but they cannot actually make any changes. So you would again enable read only or disable read only, and once again you would need manager password authorization to do both. So what I'm going to quickly do is go and disable firstly the read only on the first client. So I'm going to go and click on disable. Once again, it is asking me for a password, prompting me, are you sure you want to disable read only? And I'm going to say yes. And then for the second one, I'm going to go and remove the lock. So let's go back to the access, unlock client. Are you sure? Yes. Please provide the password. Okay. Now it didn't ask me for the manager password first because it did log me in when I disabled the read only of the first file. It did accept that that was the correct password. But there you go. Now those are clear and we can go in and edit those two files. All right, let's go into my training file. I have set this up before, so there's already a working trial balance in place. Just to show you, we do have a trial balance. I have done a little bit of editing on the financial statements, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Firstly, Draftworx has the ability to basically be a file sharing platform. So if you're working on an audit or any sort of engagement, you're actually able to import any external files that you're wanting to use as well into Draftworx. It becomes part of that client file. You can start hyperlinking to these files. You can start delegating them. They get stored in the same folder. So it's quite useful to actually rather import your working papers directly into Draftworx. And that you would do with the Office Tools menu item. So I've just gone into Draftworx and you'll see that this Office Tools pop-up that comes in. Now we do have a little calculator. So if you do need to do some calculations, you should generally be able to do it if you're in a spreadsheet, but if you do want some backup to make sure that your calculations are coming out correctly, there is a little calculator available in Office Tools, but we're going to mostly have a look at the PDF viewer, spreadsheet, word processor. Those are the ones that you're mostly going to use. Say for instance you sent out a bank confirmation and the bank emailed back the confirmation letter. It's in a PDF format. Why print it and put it in a manual file when you can actually just go and open that PDF directly into Draftworx and save it? And the same with any spreadsheet or word processor document that you have received from the client or that you've used in the process of your engagement. I'm going to look at a spreadsheet quickly. If I click on spreadsheet, it's going to ask me firstly, would you like to open an existing file or create a new file? Now if you say yes, you're basically telling the system, yes, I want to open an existing file. If you say no, you want to create a new file. I'm going to click yes now, and I'm going to then be able to browse on my desktop. I have a little file there. Here is my TV that I use. Double click on it, and it's now opened up this sheet in within Draftworx. And you'll see that the name has not changed. That's the file name that was sitting on my desktop. You can actually go and edit this and you can save it back to your desktop. However, this is not yet actually part of your client folder yet. You need to go to Save To. Okay, once you're in Save To, you can go and specify a file name. Now let's just say for instance this is a fixed asset register. That's a common one. You get the fixed asset register from the client. You actually want to make it part of your file. You would first go and specify the section that you're wanting to include this file in and basically give it an index number. So I know section 30 relates to PPE and let's call it 30.30. Put in a space between the index number and the name and we're going to say FAR, fixed asset register. Alright, and then the last step is to go and click which folder you're wanting to put it in. So do you want to put it under financial data, taxation, lead schedules, audit programs, reports, or documents? And that's basically specifying which folder here will you find that file. Generally, you're probably going to click on audit programs. Okay, let's click on that. Now it asks me, do I want to confirm the saving of Rack Retailers TB? Now it's asking me that because it's detecting some sort of change in this file because I opened it in Draftworx. Now I haven't actually made any physical changes. You saw that nothing happened, but when you open a file in Draftworx, we do add some hidden information into that workbook. So if you then want to still open this file in Excel or send it to your client, you probably don't want those changes to be saved, so you would say no, and that I'm going to do in this case. So I'm not going to change the file on the desktop, but I am going to now save this file into Draftworx. Once I do that, you will see that the tab, the name has changed. All right, it's now saying 30.30 FAR. And if we go to audit programs, go to section 30, there is my file, 3030 FAR. Okay, so that is the purpose behind this Office Tools, and using this process you can go and import any working paper that you have, that's PDF, spreadsheet, word processor, or images. You can import certain image files as well if you'd like to, and that becomes part of your file. All right, so I'm just seeing a quick question here about using the functionality to save an existing document in a Draftworx file and then going directly to that file under my documents, and the spreadsheet is a lot slower. This is a common problem. Thanks very much for the question, Adele. The reason is, as I say, we're inserting a lot of information in the background in that spreadsheet, and the spreadsheet program that we're using handles those changes a lot better than Excel does. So when you're opening it up in Excel, Excel is actually struggling to make the changes or basically display the changes that we've put into that file. There is a way to change it. So what we can do is I'm going to go and save this now as an external file. Firstly, I just want to go and double check how this has actually saved. So I'm going to close this, make sure that all the Draftworx stuff has come in. We now go to save as. Okay, so if you were now wanting to send this file to a client, you'd need to follow this process. If you try and open it up in the Draftworx folder, it is generally going to be pretty slow still. But you can save an existing spreadsheet as an external file. Let's do that. Again, it's just asking me to save any changes. And let me go and have a look. If I save this now to my desktop, what effect that has. Okay, so it did actually open quite quickly on my side, and that's because I used the save as an external file. What we then do is we try and take out any of the excess information, and a lot of that has to do with conditional formats that we put into the spreadsheet, and that is what is slowing things down in Excel. So if you're wanting to work on the file in Excel and in Draftworx, unfortunately there's not going to be a way to speed up that spreadsheet for you to open up within the same Draftworx folder and then open it up in Draftworx again. But if you do need to export that file to send it to a client, then you can use, rather than copying it out of the folder and sending it, go and save it as an external file in Draftworx, and in that way we can go and remove any of the excess formatting things that may be causing, or what is causing the slowness of that spreadsheet opening in Excel. Okay. All right, thanks for that question. I think that's quite a good one to cover over there. Okay, now the other thing I want to have a look at quickly before we get into the financial statements themselves is a little feature called Smart Docs. Now, what Smart Docs is basically a way for you to go and share information between spreadsheets. Now, I don't know how many of you have ever tried creating links between multiple spreadsheets in Excel. So you say this workbook is equal to this workbook. It creates this link through a folder name, and at the end of the day, if you send that file to somebody else, you get all sorts of errors, and you don't necessarily get the information across correctly, and the links break and whatever. Now, Smart Docs has been developed specifically to address this particular issue within spreadsheets and within sharing between different workbooks. So what we're able to do with Smart Docs is create this link. So if I've got my 30.30 FAR open on the one side, let me go and open up another spreadsheet here, or in fact I'll just use Office Tools to go and create a new spreadsheet. So I'm going to say no to create a new one. Once again, to make sure that this is actually part of my file, I need to go to Save As, 30.40, let's say this is testing. Okay, and also put it in my audit programs. Okay, so I've got 30.40 testing, and I've got my fixed asset register. Okay, in this case, it's obviously my trial balance. But I want this piece of information, that 35 million balance, which is the property, plant, and equipment cost. I want to display it on my testing sheet. Okay, so I go and I copy it on this side, and I go to my testing worksheet and I paste it. Okay, so I've got the number here. But what if, for whatever reason, I'm doing this fixed asset register and this now becomes 40 million? I might have missed a zero there. Okay, I go back to my testing workbook. What do I have here? It's still 35 million. The value has not updated. Okay, why? Because I've just pasted the value. But I want to create a way for this value to change every time it changes in my fixed asset register. So let's go back to the fixed asset register, and what I'm now going to do is, there's in the Insert tab a button here called Create Smart Doc Range. Just giving a few moments for everybody's computers to update to this point. Okay, so with the cell selected, I click on Create Smart Doc Range, and I now need to give this Smart Doc Range a name. Now, please be careful, no spaces, no special characters that will cause the formulas to fall over. So I need to go and say here, PPE cost is the name of the Smart Doc. Okay, the roll forward is there so that if you are maybe going to use the same working paper next year, it'll actually roll forward all of these smart docs into your roll forward file the next year. So I'm going to click it. It's not a compulsory thing. You can leave it off if it's just a working paper that you're going to use for 1 year. But if you are going to be using it for multiple years, then I'd suggest clicking on the roll forward. Okay, there it is, PPE cost. Click OK. Alright, now you will see that it has inserted a named range. It no longer calls this I21, it's calling it Smart Source underscore PPE cost, and I'll go a little bit more detail about what that means in a couple of moments. Now, if I go to my testing worksheet again, where I've got my 35 million, I now go to Insert, and I'm going to say Select Smart Doc. Okay, click on that. Now, we have got a whole lot of smart docs built in, especially if you are using RAC. So you need to go and search for it, but like everything else, we've got this green bar to filter. So I go and I type PPE, and there, using the filter, I found my smart doc, PPE cost. Okay, so it inserts a little name in front, select the item, click on select, and it's now showing me 40 million. Let me just go and make the formatting a little prettier over here. Copied all the formatting across from the previous working paper. Okay, so there's my 40 million. Now, if I go to my fixed asset register, and I change this back to 35,894,654 as it was before, I go back to my testing worksheet, and immediately that value has changed. So you've created a continuous link between these two working papers so that it'll update every single time you make use of, or every single time you make a change. Okay, now if you start becoming familiar with Smart Docs, you'll actually find it's quite an easy formula to actually write. So if I want to here insert equals smart doc, and I know that it's PPE cost, I can just type the formula in. You don't have to use the insert function, press enter, and it's going to pull in that value for me. Okay, the number of smart docs that you can use, virtually unlimited. You're going to struggle to make so many that it causes a problem. If you do have a lot of smart docs on a single working paper, it will slow down the saving process slightly, because every time you save a worksheet, we update the values in our database. But be that as it may, you're going to need to insert a lot, and I'm talking like 50 to 100 to even start noticing any real change in the time it takes to tab or save or do anything within Draftworx. The great thing is, when we go to our financial statements, we're actually able to use these smart docs now as well. It wasn't previously so, but let's go to, for instance, our notes, PPE. You want to do your PPE reconciliation, you're wanting to automate it, you can actually go here and insert a smart doc reference, press enter, and that's going to pull in that value for you. So you're able to have a dynamic working paper for your movement schedule, which is in your fixed asset register section. You can delegate it, and we'll talk about delegation later, to one of your clerks. Please go and fill in the appropriate movement information into our fixed assets, and it can be already pre-linked to your financial statements. So when you open your financials, immediately once you've finished and fixed your movement schedule, the values can pull straight into your property, plant, and equipment note, for instance, in this case. Okay. Vice versa, you can create smart docs within your financial statements, and those values can then get used in any one of your working papers as well. All right, so that is smart docs. Before I get further into these financials, any questions at this point, or maybe if you have any comments? I don't know if any of you have made use of smart docs before, but it is a fantastic little tool. If any of you are using RAC or our Audit Lite Plus or our Attorney's Trust methodology, a lot of what is happening in those working papers and methodologies is thanks to smart docs and the ability to carry information from one spreadsheet to another, which is quite a useful tool to have. Let's get started on some of the financial statement topics. The first one is actually quite a general one, and it's something that you saw me changing a few moments ago, and that was, just want to move to a little note that I created at the bottom here. That was the right click in a cell. Now if I right click on a cell, you'll see that there are a number of options that come up, and there's paste and paste special. If you're pasting information between worksheets, the paste special can sometimes be quite useful if you're wanting to paste values, but if you are familiar with the paste special function in Excel or other Microsoft Office programs, the paste special here is working in exactly the same way, and you actually get the same dialog box that comes up when you select paste special for various options like transposing and skipping blank cells and so on and so forth. Okay, you can even add operations. All right. You can as well insert cells, delete cells. Please just be very, very careful when working in financial statements. If you insert a cell, it goes and shifts cells down or across, which can actually mess up a lot of the formulas within the financial statements especially. So in the financials, please be careful when inserting cells that you actually insert an entire row rather than a specific cell itself. You can just cause quite a lot of havoc and a lot of pain and suffering, I think, on your part, trying to fix what has happened. Well, let me rephrase that. Often quite a lot of pain and suffering for our support staff who have to try and work out what went wrong. But you know, if you do encounter that, please just let us know and we can help you fix it up. All right. Obviously, the same goes for deleting cells. What I just want to have a look at is this Range Explorer. There are a couple of nice options here. Again, if you're familiar with Draftworx, if you're familiar with Excel, you'll know that there is a format cell window that you can open up in Excel, and this Range Explorer is very much the same thing within Draftworx. This gives you a lot of options. For instance, under number format, your alignments, your fonts, border information, inside, outside, top, bottom, coloring, protection of the cells, inserting hyperlinks. You can insert data validation, so you can have those drop downs within spreadsheets, and conditional formats are available as well. Now, just to show you a couple of options here, in Draftworx, let's go and say we wanted to insert a percentage. We go and type in 51%. You'll see immediately it goes to 1. Why? Because the format of the cell is set to rounding. Under the formatting, we do have a format cells option, and I can go and say percentage. Right now it's showing me 51%. But you'll see that I can't go and add decimals. So what if it's 51.525252? It's going to show 52, but I want to see what those decimals are. You would use Range Explorer to do this. So we go and right click on Range Explorer again, and now we would go to number format, and you'll see here we've got percentage, but I've got more options with percentage. At the moment we're using a space between the 0 and the percentage. I want to go and insert decimals. click close, and you'll see that I've now got 2 decimals in place. If you want to customize it even further, right click, go to Range Explorer. You could actually go and type your own. I want 4 decimals. Press close. Oh, sorry, that's the wrong place. Okay, it goes, I have to press enter. It inserts it as an option, close, and now I've got 4 decimals in place. So there, if you're not liking the formatting of a number, of text, just have a look at all the number format options, and these are what you should be familiar with within Excel. Okay, fractions, percentages, times, dates. If your date format is coming out strangely, you would go and change it in here as well. A number of date formats available for you to go and insert as well. Okay, so that is our Range Explorer within Excel. You can also go and make changes to your workbook. You will see that in Workbook Explorer, using the Workbook Explorer, all your sheets are listed. You can go and hide sheets, protect sheets. Preferably don't go and do too much of this in the financials. There are a lot of information in there. If you're struggling printing specifically more in working papers rather than in the spreadsheet, you can go and change margins. You can go and change your sheet. You can change alignment from portrait to landscape, zoom it, fit it. There are a lot of options in here as well, but definitely more for advanced editing and definitely more for not in the financials. We do try and do a lot of that automatically in the code when we're printing financials rather than changing it in here. Okay, you can go and change your tab color, for instance, as well in this option, and I'll go through 1 or 2 of the other options in there as well in a few moments. Okay, so that's a few of the advanced formatting options. So when the formatting bar just doesn't have enough options for you, you can go and use the right click and Range Explorer to go and give yourself more options. Okay. If I go to the status page of this set of financial statements, firstly you'll see that my retained income is sitting out with 20 million, and I'll discuss that in a moment. But you'll also note that my statement of financial position, cash flow, sitting with a hash value in here. So there's somewhere a formula that has gone wrong, basically. And we've seen this most often on the balance sheet. If I scroll there, just going to scroll down to my cash and cash equivalents, and you'll see here I'm sitting with a hash value in this cell. Now, if you do encounter this in Draftworx, the reason that you're seeing it here in cash and cash equivalents, the formula is valid except for one element. This is actually supposed to be an array formula. An array formula is a specific type of formula within Excel, and you can actually only activate an array formula, also known as a CSE formula, by actually pressing Control Shift and Enter once you've typed the formula. Now what tends to happen is that maybe you've gone and added a link number, and you've come and you're wanting to add that link number to a formula. You go and add maybe CL 810.005, or maybe I can just edit this quickly. You press enter, and suddenly, instead of working, your formula is giving a hash value. To fix this, simply go and select the cell, press F2 to enable editing, and now I'm going to press Control Shift and then press enter. Okay, now it's showing me 0. There's no more error. And if you have a look at the formula bar closely, you'll see that at the start of that formula, there's a little curly bracket in place. Okay, and you cannot edit and insert that curly bracket manually. Excel inserts it in code. Spreadsheets insert it in code, and you can only do it using a Control Shift Enter. If you try and put the brackets in manually, it's just not going to work. Okay, so if you are encountering an error like that, just be on the lookout to see if maybe it's supposed to be an array formula, and you'll often pick up that it's an array formula based on the way that the formula starts. And you'll see that it's sum if, but there's a bracket between the sum and the if. And that is generally going to be an indication that you're dealing with an array formula in this cell. Okay. Also, if you see one is an error and the other is not, you can often just have a look at the prior year and see, well, that one's got the bracket, so this one probably should have the bracket as well. Okay. All right, so that is array formulas if you are picking up that error. Go back to the status page. Fantastic. My statement of financial position no longer has an error. It has, though, still got a 20 million variance. Okay, it's out of balance by 20 million. But you will see that the retained income is out by exactly the same amount. Now, this topic was covered, I'm sure, in the Draftworx introduction. There is a specific reason for this. Yes, my trial balance is in balance, but my retained income opening balance is actually wrong. So we basically force the financial statements to basically show an out of balance amount if our retained earnings is out. Otherwise, your balance sheet doesn't equal your statement of changes in equity, and it'll be more difficult for you to pick up. So if you're seeing a difference in your financial statement of financial position or your balance sheet and your retained income, and they're the same amount, then something has gone wrong with your retained earnings balance. Either a journal was processed in the current year that shouldn't have been, or what we see very often is that last year your client didn't process your prior year adjustment journals, for instance. Let's have a look at this 20 million. Now, in our working trial balance, let's just open that up. Okay, you'll see next to the available years is now a button here called Resync Prior Year, and that's what I want to have a look at quickly. What Resync Prior Year is there for is specifically related to you've done a set of financial statements. Maybe you haven't had the opportunity to sign them off yet. So you've sent them to the client. The process has been delayed. It's a year later, and the client has not yet signed off last year's financials for whatever reason. Now you're preparing 2015's financials, but you haven't signed off 2014. And then suddenly you discover, hang on, but there's a journal I need to process in 2014 as well, as in, well, there's some error in 2014. So you go to your 2014 file, you go and you process a journal because you need to get your 2014 financials correct. But now the risk is, firstly, that you come to the 2015 and you actually forget to process the journal again, or you're going to go and process the journal, but maybe it's 20 line items in your journal. You don't want to waste the time to go and process every single leg of that journal. That's what Resync has been brought in for. With Resync, we're able to actually go and recreate the link between this file and your prior year file. Now, what we require is that the name of your client is exactly the same. And that's when, if you remember from my client opening screen, I had two space training 03, 09, 2015 files, but one was a 2014 and one was a 2015. Only if you have that set up will the Resync work. So I can now go and click on Resync Prior Year, and I want you to take a look at the dividends balance. I think that's the one that's going to change. So I've already done the journal in the prior year. Let's click on Resync, loads it, Resyncs 2013, 2014, and now my dividends balance has changed. Okay, so if I go back to my financials, because the journal has been basically automatically brought through, my retained income is no longer out of balance, my statement of financial position is no longer out of balance. Okay, so if you are preparing financials for multiple years, use the Resync. If you make a change, let's say you're doing 3 years in a row or at one time, you make a change in 2013, go and Resync 2013 to 2014 and then Resync 2014 to 2015 in order to make sure that all the changes are being brought through correctly into your 2015 year. That's going to save you time with journals, and what's great is if you're unsure, has the Resync been done, just click on the button and you're good to go. Obviously, if you had to do prior year journals in the current year already, you could cause some problems. So if you are doing the process, please just make sure you're following the process through correctly. Okay, so that is Resync. Fantastic little feature. All right, I'm getting ahead of myself. I want to have a look at multiple income statements. Sorry, I just see a quick question here that I want to address. Thank you, Monique. Yes, if you want to resync 2013 to 2014, I actually need to be in the 2014 file to pull in the 2013 information into 2014. So clicking resync while you're in 2013 won't transfer the changes to 2014. So it's only pulling in information from prior years. It's not going to push information into future years. Okay. All right, then there's also a quick question I want to address from Arifa. Unfortunately, the question is about using Smart Docs to insert values into a journal. Unfortunately, not yet at this stage, but you are able to copy values from a spreadsheet into your journal. So if you are needing to do a journal, you can tab between the two. Let me go and copy this 12 million, go to financial data, journal entries, just create a new journal entry, select the item. I'm pressing Control V and it will paste the value there for you. Okay, so it's not quite a formula that's putting in. It is going to be requiring tabbing back and forth and basically copying and pasting each item. So that's probably the easiest way to go about it in the case of especially long journal entries. Just having a look at anything else here. All right, let me just go and delete that adjustment. I don't want to cause problems in my file by having a one-legged 12 million rand journal entry. Okay, I wanted to look at multiple income statements. Now we see this quite a lot. Let's open up my income statement. This is my statutory income statement. Many of you will be putting in a detailed income statement. Here it is, 215 million rands turnover. But for sole proprietors or whatever the case might be, you maybe have multiple divisions and you're actually wanting to have multiple income statements, one for each division. We do have the facility built in by default for up to 3 additional income statements. The first detailed income statement is going to be everything. So that's going to incorporate all my income statement values. The first one will pull in all information. Then we have detailed IS 1, 2, and 3, and that's going to split information between multiple income statements. However, the total of all of those will still be in my detailed income statement. If I go and open them up just by going to the View tab, and I can then click on those items, you'll see in detailed income statement 2, my sales are sitting at 50,000. In detailed income statement 1, my sales are 215 million and 15,000, and in my primary detailed income statement I've got the total 215 million and 65,000. So that definitely is pulling through the totals. So the feature is built in, it's ready to do. The way to go about it is all going to be dependent on how you link the information in your working trial balance. And so if I go to my working trial balance, I'm just going to quickly use the filter in my links to go and filter out. Let me have a look just at that revenue figure and have a look at what the link numbers are for these two balances. So you'll immediately see that I've definitely got the 215,015 and the 50,000 sitting in my working trial balance. But have a look at the link numbers. There is a 2 after the I for the second sales item. And that is an indication that this amount is going to be headed to income statement 2. All right. If I go and I click on the little double arrow to go and have a look at what link numbers are available, I'm going to just go and look for all the 000s with my filter in this window. Let's go and have a look at the 3 items related to sales. Okay, we have an I, we have an I2 and we have an I3, and you'll see I2 and I3 are automatically already saying to you that these are related to detailed IS2 and detailed IS3. Okay, so this is how you would go about it. Your trial balance would need to have the split in already. So you can't say, well, here's sales of 215 million, but a portion of it in one account needs to go there and a portion to a different place. That won't work. You'd need to do journals if you did want to get to that level of detail. But generally, if there are different divisions, your client is already going to have different account numbers for the different divisions. Okay, so the process is when you're linking, go and make sure that you're putting the correct information in the correct place. Okay, the I2, and I3. Okay, now cancel that, close it, normal drawing, cancel there. Okay, let's go back to our financial statements. Okay, so that is looking at the formula quickly. I just want to show you in detailed IS1, here it is referring to I.000.000. In the full detailed IS, the formula here, sorry, shouldn't have done that. Let's go try that again. Here, the formula is I star. Okay, so I2, I3, I4, I5, I6, I7, it's going to accept any number. So we've had requests of up to 50 different income statements. So if you have got clients that want that level of detail for different divisions, pop the file through to as a support request and just request those additional income statements. We go and add them in, add in all the link numbers that you need, and you'll be able to do that. It does slow things down, so just be aware, the more income statements we add, obviously there's a lot more information. Your link numbers become huge. I think for 50 income statements you end up with something like 17,000 link numbers in your working trial balance that you can link to. If I just go and show hide, the standard is about 1,500. So with 50 we're adding a lot of overhead to the file. It will be slower, it will take up more space, but yeah, just be aware of the ability to do that if you do. All right, there's a question from Adele. Again, thank you very much. Can you use Smart Docs to provide income into separate income statements, for example? Adele, absolutely, but just bear in mind that you're then going to need to manually insert those formulas. So you would be able to create like a working document as a working paper in your file, insert the Smart Docs, but then you'd need to come back to your financial statements and actually insert those formulas. Also, please remember that at the moment I'm logged into these financial statements already, so I'm able to edit anywhere within these financials. If you're not logged in as manager, you're not going to be able to do that. So just be aware that to do some of these features, specifically in the financials, you're going to need manager level access, and your firm's policy is going to dictate who actually has access to it. But we generally only give that password out to the partners. It's their discretion to hand it out to any of the clerks or employees of that firm to enable that editing. Okay. The next item I want to have a look at quickly is lead sheets. And what we have seen from time to time is you will open up your financial statements and the balance on your financials may not accurately link up to what your actual balance is on the lead. Okay, and there are a number of reasons for this, and in this case I've actually gone and deliberately done it. So our balance here, just remember the 65,000 of the 215 million. I'm going to click on the hyperlink to open up my lead, and you'll see that only one of the accounts is pulling through here. I'm missing that extra 50,000. Now what we do with lead sheets is we actually regenerate them every time you open up the lead sheet. So we did deal with editing, I think, on the lead sheet. Just to recap, if you missed it in the introduction session, this area in blue that sits below the lead sheet is your free editing space. So you can go and add anything you want here. And if the number of rows provided are not enough, you can just go and insert additional rows. So anything that's highlighted in the blue here, we're going to save and actually put back onto your lead sheet when we regenerate the next time you open. But the accounts that are inserted and the link numbers basically that are inserted, we pull in from a hidden sheet. So just like with the financial statements, if you hit the View tab when you're within a lead sheet, you'll see that there is a lead data sheet that that is shown, but it's not highlighted, therefore it's not actually going to display. Now, to switch that on, let's just go and switch it on. You'll see I open it up, and it's just got a string of link numbers here. Okay, and I'll just show you one or two variations on that. Now I went and I deliberately deleted I2.000.000, and that is why I2 is not showing on this sheet. So I'm going to go and insert it, I2.000.000. Okay, go back to the lead. It's obviously not going to show yet. Let's close the revenue lead, and I'll use the hyperlink to reopen it. Okay, and now sales are showing, and I've got the correct balance that agrees to my financial statements. All right, now what one must be aware of is that this is generally going to happen mostly when you have inserted additional link numbers. Let's say you've used the advanced features within Draftworx and you've got an added new link numbers, and I'll show that to you in a moment. You need to remember to go and insert those link numbers into the lead as well. The other thing to be aware of is if you've done roll forwards, there could be clashes, maybe something went wrong with your lead sheet. We do try and recover that, and in future we'll have a feature that will automatically repopulate this lead data sheet. But if you are having problems with it, this is the place to start. Go and have a look. Am I missing the link number that I'm expecting on this lead data sheet? If you are really having a problem, you can also go and replace the leads, but if you do need some help with that, then just please contact our remote support. Okay. Let's see where we are. Okay, just to show you adding link numbers, I'm going back to my working trial balance. And with my show hide link numbers visible, so on the right hand side I've got my link numbers visible, there is the option at the top to enable or disable link edit, and this is the button that you're going to need to push in order to allow you to edit the links. Okay, let's go and click it, and once that item is highlighted in blue, I can now enter a new link number in the yellow bar. So let's go and call it I.999.999, other sales, specify whether it is income statement or balance sheet. All right, specify the disclosure description and specify the category as well. Okay. Once you've inserted all that information, press enter, and that link number is available. Now if we go to our working trial balance, while we are there, let's go and link other sales. Sorry, the drag and drop doesn't work while enable disable link numbers is selected. Let's go and put I99999 in there. Once I've done that, we're going to open up the financials. Not sure if this is going to work. No, it still does actually pull in the correct value. Oh yes, okay. So the formula in my statement of comprehensive income actually goes and includes I.star.star. Okay, so it's going to include everything that I have in revenue. However, depending on what you've named the the item. So let's go to the detailed income statement. Here I don't have a link number. So if we look at the profit on my detailed income statement, just going to go to the bottom here quickly. I'm sitting with 46,324. If I go to my standard income statement, 46,374. So I am missing that 50,000 on my detailed income statement. Okay, the reason for that is the formulas here in revenue, so I'm just scrolling up to it, are now not specifying that I999. So you actually need to go and insert a new row here. Okay, I'm going to use my right click here, and I'm going to go and use the insert cells. But as I said earlier, please make sure you insert an entire row rather than just a cell itself. Click OK. To make life easier, I'm just copying the first line. Okay. And now I need to go and edit this formula. All right. Now the formula initially, sum if I star 000 I need to change that to 999, 999, and I can delete the rest of that formula. It's not required. And press enter. Okay, now my 50,000 is coming in, and I copy and I paste that to prior year, setting of a 50, but I don't want final. I need to change it to prior, and I'll show you in a little while how easy it is to change that as well. Just be aware the link description currently saying sales, but you'll see that there is a formula here as well that also refers to the 000 link number. So I can actually go and edit this as well. Make these 999s. Just make sure you do change all of them. And press enter, and then it's going to give me the sales. All right, I just want to quickly go back to the lead sheet. Just to recap where we opened up the, sorry, I just had a question about this view. In case you missed it earlier, view and click on lead data to be able to open up the list of links that are in this specific lead sheet. All right, any other questions at this point? We're about an hour in. Everybody's still with me. And okay, I've got a question about pulling in the income tax liability calculated after, I'm assuming in the tax calc sheet that we have. Let's just quickly address this. How do you reflect this tax calc in your financial statements? Okay, so if any of you are familiar with this tax calculation, you'll see that it's telling me that normal tax here is supposed to be 12 million and there's a liability. But obviously, well, in my case, because if I go to my status sheet, I'm sitting with a 12 million difference for my taxation and for my tax statement of changes in equity, statement of comprehensive income, and my statement of financial performance. The reason that you're seeing this difference here is you've actually got to go and raise a journal to bring in this value. So, Mahlodi, the tax calc itself is not automatically linked to the financial statements. You do actually need to go and process a journal, and the recon will pull through and tell you whether have you got the journal right, or if your journal you know is right, has your recon been done correctly on the tax calc. So that's just how the tax calc links to the financials. You do just need to go and insert a journal for it. Okay. if you are sitting in a situation, we do have, for instance, at the end of the financial statements, we do have space for additional schedules. So if you do want to go and add information to the financial statements for whatever purpose, you can go and switch on these schedules. Now, if this is not enough, let's say for any reason you actually want to go and add additional sheets to your financial statements, fairly easy to do. Earlier on, we right-clicked and we clicked on Range Explorer. Just go a little bit higher up. This time we're going to right-click and we're going to click on Workbook Explorer. Okay, we did open that up a little bit earlier, and here we have a list of the sheets. Now to insert a sheet, merely go and find the spot that you're wanting to include it. So let's go and put it after Schedules, right-click on the one below it, and I can go and insert a worksheet. Okay, I click on that name again, it becomes editable, and I go and I say Add Schedules for additional schedules. Okay. You can then go and what I'll do is select everything in my schedules worksheet, go and copy and paste it. The nice thing now is it's got the same column widths and everything, so if you select everything in one sheet and copy it over, that'll pull through automatically, the formatting and everything, and you can now go and edit this. However, if I go to my index sheet, obviously the additional schedules are not sitting in here yet. So you need to manually go and just add some additional information. And it's quite easy to just use one of the others as a template for yourself, basically. So for instance, if we look at schedules, C53 in this case, you'll see that there's nothing funny, it just says schedules. So I'm going to go here and say additional schedules. Okay. Now, if you go and look at the page number, we spoke earlier about named ranges, and you'll see in this case there is a named range here, schedules underscore page number. And this is just an indication to the program, to Draftworx, when you're doing a print preview, this is where you need to go and insert the schedules page number. Okay, so the layout here is just, I need to now call it add schedules underscore page number. Okay, so using the developer tab, and we'll have a look at it in a little bit more detail, there is create named range option here. Okay, I'm going to click on that. That's in the top corner. Sorry, let me just use the spotlight to highlight it for you. This item here in the corner is create named range. Okay, let's click on it, and it opens up a window very similar to when we created a smart doc. But now I'm going to say add schedules underscore page number. Okay, you don't have to worry about the capitalization. I just like it looking neat. Capitalization doesn't really matter. Just no spaces, and just remember that underscore. Okay, press OK, and now that's add schedules page number. Okay, it's not going to insert the page number yet. You actually need to run a print preview first. Then the other thing that you need to add is also just on the very far right, you'll see there's schedules display. This is optional, so if you do know that you are going to show the schedules, obviously you can leave it with a 1 on the left-hand side. But if you do want to automate this process, we can go and add a named range, basically add schedules underscore display. Then if I switch it off, it'll automatically switch off this note or this line for me as well. So let's go and add that, add schedules display, and I'm going to click on OK. Just want to let the screens catch up. Okay, now let's hope this all works and I haven't been lying to you. Let's go and preview these financial statements. Let's have a look. Okay, so I've got my status sheet. Yeah, we haven't done the cash flow at this point. I haven't inserted names. Okay, we scroll down. There we go. Additional schedules, page 26, and it is printing the correct page number for me. Okay, then the reason I went and put in that add schedules display, if I go to my view tab, I go and I switch off add schedules. Look what's happened. it's automatically switched off add schedules. Okay, switch it back on. Go back to index, and there you go. It's put a 1 in place as well. As I switch it off, just please note it hasn't changed the page numbers. Page numbers only change when you do a print preview. Okay, if you are having problems with the page number or if something looks wrong, just rerun the print preview, and that will force the update if there are any lingering issues or circular references or something. The other great thing to do is if you want to reorder your notes, sorry, not your notes, if you want to reorder your sheets in a working paper. So let's say we want to put add schedules before ratios. Very easy to do. Just click on the sheet that, or open up the sheet that you're wanting to move, and you'll see that there is a sheet control available. And there you just need to go and simply move that sheet left or right. Okay, let's go and do that. Move it left, move it left. Now if you have a lot of hidden sheets, you might have to click multiple times. The reason is there might be hidden sheets in between. So I think even now it's going to move to before tax calc for me now. Just going to let you catch up. Click, it's moved before tax calc. Just have a look here. I'm going to click it again, but it's not going to move before detailed IS2, and I'll explain to you why. Hasn't done it. The reason is that there's detailed IS3, so it's pulled it in front of detailed IS3, but detailed IS3 is still hidden, so that's why it's not showing it yet. I'm going to click it again a few times, move it to in front of detailed IS1 in fact. Okay. Now at the same time as you've been doing this, on my index page, have a look where add schedules are sitting. It's moved it up automatically for you. Okay. Now one thing we are working on, if I try and move those additional schedules even further up, okay, so if I try and move it, say, before the notes, you will see that the supplementary information paragraph moves incorrectly. We are still working on that one to make it fluid, but if you are needing to move it specifically, like often your detailed income statement, you want to move up to a different location. If you're seeing this is not going right, you can hop into remote support, or otherwise just go and insert the applicable required columns, rows where you need them. You can just reformat the index. As long as you still keep detailed income statement in the same row that you have the detailed IS display named range and that you have the detailed IS page number named range in, you'll be fine. Okay. Other fairly new feature that's come out is the ability to move notes up and down. So if we go to our balance sheet, I don't have many notes open at the moment, sorry, so let me just go and open up a couple more. Let's go to my balance sheet. Okay, so I have note 3, 4, 5, 6, all nicely in order. Okay, but let's go and say, for instance, I've now not opened one that I'm going to display it nicely for you. Go back to the balance sheet. Okay, so in this case, it actually works quite nicely. Here we have a loan to shareholder, note 6, but there are no values, so it's not going to print. But inventories, note 9, has got a value, but now loans to shareholder, the first time it's displayed as note 6. Okay, some people don't like that. They want the notes to be in order. The only way to do that is actually now to go and move this loan to shareholder down to below my inventories. That would be a fairly long process if you had to try and do it manually. However, let's go and find loans to shareholder. Okay, there it is. Click on the note. All right. Go to my Notes tab, and you'll see that there is a move up and down option available once I've opened that up. Just let all the screens update on your side. Okay, so there are my move up and move down options. So I need to move it down. So let's start. Move it down. It's below loan to related party. That's not low enough. Down again, loan to subsidiary, loan to joint venture. You'll see it's now loan note 7. Loan to joint venture is loan note 6. Still needs to go down further. It's now 8. Still not at inventory yet. Keep going. There's inventories. There's note 9. I've actually got a few too many because it's probably going to be below trade and other receivables on your balance sheet. There we go. Let's open that. Note 10. Go to my balance sheet. In fact, I need to go even further down. Loans to shareholder. I see the formula isn't updated. Trade and other receivables. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't have it below trade and other receivables. That's my problem. Sorry about that. So I need to move it up again. I need to make this note 9, which is above trade and other receivables. Let's go back to my balance sheet. And there you go. Now my notes are in numerical order. Okay, obviously, in this case, I've got loans to shareholders. If you've got a note, for instance, your cash and cash equivalent, it's going to have a note number on your assets as well as in your liabilities. And if both have a balance, obviously you're going to have the same note number in both places. So there it's going to be a bit impossible to get your notes in sequence. But the move notes works very, very well, able to move that entire note to a new location. Just be aware, if you do hop onto remote support, we are experiencing problems with TeamViewer. We're not able to automatically shift the note for you while we logged in with TeamViewer. TeamViewer, for some reason, does some funny things with our the copy and paste on the clipboard. So it's not working so lacquer, but it's easy enough to do on your own. Just quite simply move it up and move it down as you need it. Okay, I want to just try and address one question that's come in from Adele, just with regards to the tax calc being able to calculate the small business corporation rates. Adele, it is a query that has come to us a few times on the tax calc. Let me just open it up here. The reason that we're hesitant to do so is because the brackets change annually and the percentages change and so on and so forth. We're a bit hesitant to put this in as an automatic feature because if you select the wrong financial year or something goes funny, you got these multiple tables, multiple years. We can't guarantee that you're going to get the right table basically into that calculation. You know, we can't control how Draftworx is used. Certainly we can create a template that could do it, but it would be quite sensitive to what is your financial period end. Is it a March? Is it a February? Is it a December year end? What rates are applicable? So we've rather just gone for the approach of if it is small or micro business tax rates, we're not going to basically calculate anything at this stage. So if you do say here, does this entity qualify for small micro business rates? We actually just don't calculate anything anymore at all for taxation. It needs to be manually inserted, please. So yeah, we are aware of the request, but we're just a bit hesitant with that at the moment. Okay. Remembering Draftworx is not a full tax package, it's financial statement preparation. So we're hoping that you'll be able to do that calculation externally, possibly on a different working paper. You can put in the tables and everything and have it looking neat, and then just copy in the actual tax amount and then put in the journal as appropriate. Okay. All right, I want to have a look at a couple of other items in the developer tab, just to show you some of the other options there. Now you saw creating named ranges. Now named ranges, basically what we've done with it is something related to our code, but other options that are in place, if you wanting to create a formula to work basically in any location in the file, you can actually go to a working paper, and let's maybe use a one of our testing items here. Let's say you got a value here, 400. Go to the developer tab and I'm going to create a named range. Okay, and I'm going to call this test range. Okay. All right, and press OK. Now the cell is called, instead of D12, it's called test range. Now if you need to create a formula, let's say you've got a number of values on the right hand side and you want to do 1 times 400, okay? That's H12 times D12. If I copy and paste that formula, the rest of the items are going to be 0 because they're not all pointing to 400. Now it is possible to go and use a static reference, so you say $D, $12, and if you copy that down it will work. What the named range does is we're actually replacing the need for a $D, $12 with just test range. So I can go and insert it as if that's the name of the cell, and when I copy and paste it, it's going to remember test range. It doesn't move along. All right. So that's the use of named ranges. If you do need to use it in any of your working papers, the great thing is then if you need to go to a new sheet on the same working paper, there's no need to go and create a reference to the other sheet. If you know the named range just simply equals test range, and you can use that anywhere within the same workbook. So if I've got sheet 2, sheet 3, sheet 4, I can keep referring back to that same named range from anywhere within that file to be able to use it. Okay. We also have under the developer tab something called a sorting range. You'll see it's called AZ over there. And what we use this for is basically to create automatic sorting ranges within the financial statements. And we make use of it, for instance, on our detailed income statement. If I go and I select, now we leave the first sales out of the sorting range. We believe the first sale should always be on top. But let me go and select the text from administration fees down to sundry income. You'll see that these items are all in alphabetical order. The name of that area, if you have a look closely, is sort 7. So this is already a sort range within Draftworx. So if I go now and change one of these names, okay, I'm just editing randomly. It does require reopening of the financials, so let's close them, save them, and reopen it. All right, and let's go back to our detailed income statement. Oh, where did I put it? Oh, there we go. It's on detailed IS1. Okay, there we go. You'll see it's now put all of those items in alphabetical order again. Okay, so it's an automatic process that happens every time that you reopen Draftworx. If you do want to insert an additional sort range into a manual note, just make sure you select from the column that has the names in that you want to sort all the way to the very right hand side. Okay, and then using the developer tab, you'd click on create sort range. It'll insert that name for you, the correct name. Just please be careful that none of these cells are merged. The merged cells do cause a problem with the formulas, so that needs to be unmerged, probably not wrapped either, otherwise the formatting is going to look a little bit funny. Okay, so that is sorting ranges within Draftworx. Also, if we go back to just this example that we had earlier, if you do need to delete a named range, there is a delete named range. Okay, please, sorry, there are 2 X's. One is to create an omit range. I'm not going to discuss that in this training. Just have a look at the tooltip that comes up. It says there to me that this is the delete named range, and you can actually delete it. What will happen immediately, obviously in this case, all of these formulas become an error. Because the named range doesn't exist in the file anymore, so you'd need to go and edit it basically, but that would be an option to delete named ranges. The other items under the developer tab that I'm just wanting to show you, firstly there is a little green tick which allows you to see hidden rows and columns. Now, in the financials, the only column that we're really hiding at the moment is in your cash flow, so I've just opened that up to show you what happens. If you click on this tick, you'll see it opens up a third column within my cash flow. And the reason for that is depending on how many trial balances you've imported into Draftworx, we have two different versions of the prior year cash flow. And if I scroll down, you'll see, for instance, in the working capital changes, there are a lot more manually edited cells than there are in the other. So these are the two 2014 columns. Because I have 3 years imported, it's very easy for me to calculate the correct movement in inventories and trade and other receivables from 2013 to 2014 in this case. If you only have 2 years trial balances, then I don't have the third year to compare with, and therefore we would default to this column. So I'm not necessarily sure you'd use it too often, but this facility is there to have a look at what may be hidden in any spreadsheet that you're working on. Okay, I see just a couple of questions that have come in. All right, the first question is about why it only says auditor on the information. I'm assuming you're talking about general information. However, you'll notice that in this on this file, Louisa, it's not actually saying auditor. If this is the correct cell that you're referring to, if you want to maybe just add to your question, this information is populated out of the client setup. So depending on how you've set up your client setup, you'll see that the firm type is available as a setting within the client setup, and that is going to dictate what is shown on the general information page. Okay, so at the moment it's set to Chartered Accountant SA, and you have a number of options here: Registered Auditor, Professional Accountant. If I click on Registered Auditor, go back to the financials, it's now talking about auditors and not Chartered Accountant. Sorry, I'm just quickly skipping back to Accounting Officer, going back to the financials, and now it's talking about Accounting Officer. So I hope that answers the question, Louisa. If it's somewhere else, then just please let me know, but that's something to do with your client setup that maybe needs to be changed. Then Andre, a question about sorting by value instead of name. It's not available at the moment, unfortunately, but it's certainly something we can push to our developers to see if there's maybe something we can do about sorting by values. I can't give you an estimate on when or if that would be available, but I will pass that on. Okay, I think I've dealt with all the questions up to that point. All right, then going back to the developer tab, you'll see that there's a little orange icon that's sitting on the developer tab. Now this is to enable you to go and find any error cells within your financial statements. So, or in fact with any workbook that you're working on. So if you've got just a general spreadsheet, often you would see maybe it suddenly gets very slow, or there are some problems. Maybe there's some error formulas in there that is causing that. That's what this button is for. So if I click on it now, I don't think anything is actually going to happen because I don't think I have any errors in these financial statements. But let's go and deliberately, I can't create an invalid formula. Let's go and, all right, now I've got a hash name. All right, I've just moved to another sheet so that when I click on it, you'll see what happens. I'm going to click on it now, just let the window catch up, everybody's views catch up. Click on it and you'll see that it popped up a window. A cell was found containing hash name, detailed IS, and it's in A11. I just click OK and it'll actually take me to that cell. Now the reason this cell is obviously an error is because it's got a formula that links to the hash name and sales. So then you can very quickly find where the error cells are within your file. Let's go and change this back to final. Okay, and there you go. You've got sales. All right, then I've just had a question now from Jason. Thanks very much. It is a request about getting in tables cells with no value not to print. Right now, typically I think he is referring to on your in your financials, for instance. Here on this note, we've got no disposals, yet when I print this when I print the financials, it's going to show the disposals column. Now at the moment, Jason, there's not any automatic way to do this. You'd actually have to manually go and delete and move the columns, which is not ideal. However, you saw earlier I mentioned that there was this omit range. It's not fully implemented, but it is something that we are working on in the financial statement. What that will do is we would create an omit range. Say for instance these columns here, it would become an omit range, and it automatically scans to see if there are any values in a column, and it'll automatically skip for you. So Jason, at the moment no automatic, but is definitely coming. I don't know if you've heard about our Financials Plus template, which we're hoping to release later in the year. It's been implemented in there, and it actually works fantastically. So a couple of nice features coming with those Financials Plus, which we'll certainly let you know about as we get closer to our release date. But yeah, at the moment, unfortunately, nothing really other than a manual edit, which is, like I say, not the ideal for you to be going and doing, but it'll be coming soon. Okay. Now, the other issue that we do encounter from time to time, I just want to go and actually create this error on these financials and this detailed income statement again. If I go and print, let's just see if I can replicate what we're seeing with our clients. Okay, I've printed this sheet, and what you will very quickly notice, not that I even need to really highlight it, is that there's a whole lot of ones and zeros and things printing on the very left-hand side of the sheet. I'm sure many of you may have encountered this before, but you saw exactly why this happened, and that was because of this error cell. The error cell is causing an error in column A, the names, and because of that, it's now printing column A. In other words, the code is finding an error, and it's therefore basically crashing the process of hiding column A. So if you are encountering that, if you do see that your column A is printing on any one of your worksheets, please just go and use that Find Error Cells button. What that will do is cycle through all the errors, and what we often find is that the error is actually not in something that you're using at the time. Your error might well be somewhere else in your notes, and in one of your hidden notes, for instance, where some formula has gone wrong due to an edit. It might be the version of the financials you're using, whatever the case might be, but there's an error somewhere. So just to show you what that would look like, I want to go and create an error in here as well. So at the moment, you can't see that there's an error, obviously, but if I print, it is going to print column A. If I go to my Developer tab and I click on Find Error Cells, okay, it's actually finding an error in my status page now as well. Don't necessarily want that. Sorry, I'm just going to delete these. Murphy's Law. When I want to show you something specific, it's now giving me the runaround. Okay, it's now found the hash name in Notes A17. It opens up Notes A17, but I want you to just see, if you can, the little block that's displayed here. It's between 11 and 80. So what you would need to do in that case is just literally go and open up that note, and you'll see that the actual cell is still there. Go and diagnose it. If it's a note that you're not using, you can simply go and delete it. that will resolve the issue for your printing, although in this case, because there is a whole linked issue, it's not going to resolve the non-printing. So I would need to go and find the error cell, delete it, it's not a note I'm using, or go and fix it if it's something that you feel is worth fixing. Okay, switch that off again. All right, so just to recap, yeah, if you are finding that something is printing, it's because of an error somewhere. Okay. Now the other thing that that we do see from time to time is, and we'll use the detailed IS2 as the example, sorry, detailed IS1, you've got errors in here. You don't know why they're errors. You haven't done much editing, or maybe you have done editing, but it's completely messed up. You want to start with a clean slate. You are able to go and replace this entire income statement directly from the original template that's sitting within Draftworx. And it is, again, very, very easy to do. We use the Developer tab, and the button that we're going to use is this Import Sheets from Template. Let me just circle it for you, a little radioactive blue sign. This is going to allow me to import this sheet from a template. Just waiting for all the all your screens to update. Make sure everybody is up to date with me. Okay, so let's go and use that. I'm going to click on Import Sheets from Template, and it opens up a window which is going to list all the worksheets that are in these financial statements. I'm just scrolling down to the bottom so long for those that are not up to date with me yet, and all I want to do is import my detailed income statement 1. Okay, simply go and tick on that detailed IS1. All right, click on Select in the bottom right corner. It is asking me if I want to recreate the index page. In this case, I'm not too worried about the index page, so I'm going to say no. And there we go. I have a replacement sheet in place. And my ZAC changes are all gone. It's now just brought me back to my original TB, or my original sheet as I had it before. Okay. Going to go and have a look at notes. We were playing around with this note a little bit earlier, a new note that I'd added. Now, what you'll very quickly see if you have a look at this note is that the values in the 2 years are actually exactly the same. If I then go and have a look at the formulas in each, the formulas are the same. Now, the reason for that is, obviously, I was working on this note myself. I've added it. Instead of going through the whole process, especially if you've got a long note, you don't want to go and retype or redo the whole process to bring in the values into the prior year. So it's easier just to quickly go and copy and paste. So that's as far as I've gotten on this note, as I inserted the final values that I wanted to in my from my working trial balance, and I copied it and pasted it to the prior year. Now, it is actually quite simple to do manually. You can just go and change everything that's got a final in it to a prior one, and that'll resolve it for you. But that is a lot of excess work. You don't want to waste your time. So simply go and select the cells that you're wanting to change. Once again, you do need to be logged in as a manager to do this, so you do need that manager password. And we'll go and click on this prior button in the Developer tab. Okay, click prior, and it automatically goes and changes all of those formulas for me, and you'll immediately see that those values have updated. All right, quick and easy. You'll see that you're able to do a lot of changes between opening, priors, finals, what have you. Nice and quick and easy process for you to follow. Okay. Then the spell checker. All right. Please make use of a spell checker, especially if you've done a lot of editing on the financials yourself. You have the option to check spelling in the worksheet, which is the whatever sheet you're currently on, or in the entire workbook from beginning to end. We're going to click on that one now. Let's go and check for any spelling errors. Okay, at the bottom of the screen, if you are able to see it, there we go. Here okay, it found a spelling error, add schedules. It doesn't know what this add schedules is. Okay, now it gives me a few suggestions. As you should be familiar with any spell checking process, it does, where it can, give you those options, but there is a custom dictionary in Draftworx. So if you've got special words, or maybe it's the surname of one of the shareholders that it's picking up or something like that, you can go and add it to dictionary, or you can ignore, or you can change it, or you can actually go and edit it. If one of the suggestions are not valid, you can go and type in your own. So please make use of the spell checker, very helpful, especially when you've started building up a good database of your own dictionary. If anybody feels particularly bored, or you've got absolutely nothing to do and you want to go and create your own Afrikaans dictionary, you can actually go and start doing the spell check in Afrikaans and start adding all those Afrikaans words to your custom dictionary. I would just suggest in that case go and make a backup of the dictionary, give us a yell and we can help you. It's probably going to take you a long time to do, but if it is an important issue for you, maybe it's worthwhile doing. Okay, unfortunately, some items we're not going to be able to pick up all the spelling errors. So if you do, for instance, insert a SmartDoc link and there is text in the SmartDoc, we're not going to be able to pick up the spelling mistake in the SmartDoc. We only look at the text and the formulas that are actually visible and available. All right. Any questions? I'm going to move a little bit away from the financials now. Going to spend 5 minutes having a look at electronic review, but if there are any questions still on the financials, maybe if you want to pop that through to me quickly. Right now, more and more as we've been developing Draftworx, we're trying to make it a tool that you can basically keep an electronic file for yourself. We don't want paper wasted. We at Draftworx very much like trees. We want to try and save as many as we can. So we try and keep the file as electronic as possible. Now some firms are not ready for that and you're still going to print your working papers, and that's fine at the end of the day, but we still want to encourage the electronic review process, and we've built in a lot of controls and tools to make that as easy as possible. The electronic review itself, which we're going to look at now, as well as delegation, which allows multiple people to be working together on a particular audit. Now, if you are the audit manager or the audit partner and you get a working paper and you want to raise a review note, now like I say, we want it electronic, so you send the electronic file to the partner or the manager for review, and they get the working file electronically. We don't want you then to have a separate piece of paper or a separate workbook or something to go and type all your review notes in. There's actually an ability to do it directly within Draftworx. And on the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see, just to highlight it quickly, there is an Add Note button on the right-hand side. Okay, and this is what we're going to make use of now. There's this little Add Note. Okay, so I will just erase that, and I'm going to go and click on Add Note. All right, so it's now going to say, please specify your note for this cell. Okay. Please explain the purpose of this working paper. Okay, so you as the audit partner get what basically looks like a trial balance. Why is it here? Why is it part of my fixed asset register? Okay, now you can also go and insert a note, management letter points, and I'll show you what that is in a moment. But who must go and actually address this note? You can here go and specify, Shane, I'm going to pick on you. Shane, please address this review note, and I click OK. Great, it puts a little dialog box in there for you, shows you here is where this review note is. Okay, now let's go, and that's a review note. We also want to create an exception. So we're seeing, hang on, there's something here that we need to report to management. And using that same add note, I would now go and call this, instead of a note, I'm going to call it MLP, which is a management letter point. It opens up a completely different window with a lot more detail in here. Okay, and here I go and specify a heading and whatever this may be. What is my reference? Go and give detail. Okay, and go and put in various information that relates to what this item is that you are wanting to report to management. You can go and give it a rating. Is it critical, high, low, medium, or none? It's going to put a medium. If you want to, go and put in a category, cash and cash equivalents. Okay, contact number, what's the target date, response, who gave a response once you've gotten responses from management. You don't have to put that all in immediately. You can edit it later, but here's the beginning of a management letter point. Okay, I'm going to press OK. All right, and you'll see it also puts up a little dialog box here in the same way that a review note is given. However, if I go to electronic review, just want everybody to catch up to that screen. It's the second option under client setup. All right, we have an electronic review. Let's open that up. Now this is going to give me a complete listing of all the working papers within this file. Okay, and as I scroll down we get to fixed asset register, and you'll see it's got a little triangle with an exclamation in it. This is indicating to me that there's an exception. So as soon as there's a note, we immediately raise an exception, and it's telling me that there are 2 notes available on this working paper. Okay, let me click on it. All right. Now it gives me a summary. Here's my note. Here's my management letter point. Now, management letter point, it's not addressed to me, but you'll see that this one is addressed to Shane. If Shane, you want to go and find out all the items that are for you, there's actually in the top a little how many notes are there to Shane. Click on it. These are all the notes that Shane you need to go and address. Okay, very easy. You can use the little double arrow, click on it, and it actually goes and opens up the working paper for you, so you can quickly go and see exactly where the note is. What do you need to do? But at the end of the day, I need to give a response. Okay, and maybe you documented details on the working paper. All right, and then I'm going to tick and say addressed. Now obviously Shane, you're not logged in, so it's not going to put your initials in there, it's going to put mine in, and it puts a completed date in for me as well. However, I can at the moment, unless you logged in as manager, you can't actually accept that change. So no, I'm not going to log out now. Okay, so Shane, you've addressed it, if I'm the audit manager, I would go through, have a look at which items have now been addressed, and I can actually go and say, which notes have I given? Okay, I've given this note to Shane. He said he's documented details on the working paper. Open up the working paper. Has he documented it? Yes or no? If I'm happy, as long as I'm logged in as a manager or partner, I can go and say I've accepted that. As soon as I've accepted it, I close. Or in fact, because of the MLP, it's not going to close the exception. I would need to do more to remove that exception, but you would then now see that it's accepted and you can move on. When you get to the end of the audit, you can go and delete all notes as well, but once again you do need to be logged in as a manager. The MLPs we wouldn't generally edit from the electronic review. We just do indicate that there is a management letter point. Also under client setup, there's a specific MLP grid that opens up, and here you can go and add additional details. Observation detail, the nature, the cause, the risk, the controls deficiencies, recommendations, management comments, responses, and auditor's comments. So all that information can then still be edited and added at a later stage. The great thing is when you go and look under reports, there's a nice little MLP report. Let's open that up, and it'll pull in all the MLPs and give you the details. We are also finalizing a process where this will actually be imported into a specific spreadsheet. So like you have financial statements, it's automatically going to pull in all this information, put it into a nice reporting format for you, so you get a nice document that you can edit and print like a set of financial statements as well. So we will go through that, and we'll send out details of that once that feature is available. Okay. Now, I'm not sure how many of you this is going to be applicable to. Sorry, I'm just closing a lot of these open windows. If you have multiple people engaged in the same audit, let's say you go out to a client, there's no internet, there's no network there, but more than one person needs to now work on this client at the same time. We've built in a feature called delegation specifically for this. So if I go to client setup, you'll see the fifth option there is delegation. It's got a bright red arrow. Okay. Let's click on delegation. Opens up this window for you, and again it lists all of the working papers within the file. Okay. Scrolling to the bottom, this is everything that's available in the file. Now let's say you want to delegate the property, plant and equipment section now to one of your clerks. Okay. Let's go and select all the 30 point something files. This is the whole PPE section. Okay. Those are the files I want to delegate, and I'm going to pick on you this time, Michelle, if you're still watching, or unless you're too busy with with support. Sorry, that's destination. I need to specify destination. Let's say desktop. Okay. Who's the clerk? Michelle. Now you need to specify a clerk because that enables us to differentiate between the files that you maybe are creating. So maybe you've got 5 different files. Just make sure you give each one a different clerk name. And now we're going to delegate this. What it does is it packages all of the file information, that's the database, and these files that you've specified into a little zip file, usually quite small enough to email, or you can just put it on a flash disk, send it out. And what now happens is it's telling me that all of these files are delegated to Michelle. Okay, let's go to audit programs, open up section 30, and you'll see that these files are grayed out. If I try and open them, it's going to give me a warning. Please note that this file has been delegated to Michelle. Any work performed hereon may be overwritten when you return the delegation. Okay, so it's just giving you a warning that I can't actually change anything on here at the moment. Okay, those files are delegated. What does Michelle do? Michelle will get this file, put it on either on a flash disk or save it to your desktop, or maybe a folder that you're comfortable with using or have easy access to. And she will now need to go and book in this delegation. Here is the button in your client screen, book in delegation. Just waiting for screens to update. Okay, I'll click on that, book in delegation, and I can now search for the file. I know that I've saved it on my desktop, and there is my file. You'll see it's called DXO. Let's get the spotlight. Just want everybody to catch up and see what I've called it. All right, there is the file that I will import. Just click on open. Now it asks you, do you want to delete the delegation file? What that means is this little file that you've emailed around to people, do you want to delete it? If you can, it's good to keep backups in case something goes wrong, but in general, if you are comfortable and you can redo the delegation if necessary, I can just click on yes. And what you'll see is that it's now added a new client to my list. It's also called Training 0309 2015. But on the right-hand side, it's now got a red down arrow to indicate to me that this is a delegation file. So even though I've got the master, I can also have the delegation on the same computer, although generally that's not going to be the case. You'd have sent it to somebody else. Okay, I can open up that file. When I open it up, open up my audit programs, and there are the ones that have been delegated to me. There were a few lead sheets as well, and it's only the ones that have been delegated to me that I'm actually going to see. Okay. Also, if you have gotten some review notes, you can open up the electronic review, open the file, and you can go and deal with the review notes on this file as well. Okay. All right, so that would be delegation. I can go in, open the files, make my changes, and what you would then do is Michelle would go back to her client list. Okay, select the delegation file. So she wants to return this back to the master file, give it back to the manager. So I've selected the item, and I now click, instead of book in delegation, I'm going to click on return delegation. Okay. Again, I just need to specify a location. Let me pop it on my desktop again, and I click OK. And once I've done that, it packages the file again, and you'll see I don't have the delegation in my client list anymore. Manager will open up his file again, go to client setup, go to delegations again, and we're going to return that delegation. Before I do that, just to show you, if you do sit in a situation where somebody has lost the delegation file, it's become corrupted, the laptop was stolen, backup hard drive crashed, whatever the case might be, you can go and undo the delegation, and that would be by going and clicking on each one of these ticks that appear next to the name of the person who you want to undelegate from. So if I go and click on this first one, it asks me, are you sure you want to undelegate? And you'd say yes, and it would take away the red arrow, and it would no longer be a delegated file, and you can redelegate it to somebody else. Obviously, you're going to, if you do that when you shouldn't be, you could lose work because of duplications or different people delegating different versions of that file in. You do want to try and avoid that. So only use this in a case where you really have lost that data. Okay. In this case, I'm just going to return the delegation by clicking the return delegation button on the top of the screen, and I browse for the file. In this case, instead of being a DX, it is a DXI file that I'm going to look for. Just to show you, I didn't mention it earlier, or didn't show you earlier, this is 2 megabyte file, so quite small and easy to use. All right, so I will select the file, and I will click on Open. Again, it asks you, do you want to delete the delegation file? So that's just a warning in case you don't want to delete something inappropriately. I'm going to say yes in this case, because it is just a test file. And that then reincorporates everything to my master file. Okay. All right, I want to quickly just have a look at consolidations, not to go through a detailed training. You would need to create a brand new file. So if you are needing to do a consolidation, you will have a file for your holding company. You would have multiple client files for your different subsidiaries, however many there are, and you would now need to go and create a new file, which is going to be your consolidation file. Okay, what you would need to do, I think I actually created it incorrectly, so let me create a new one. I'm going to call it Training Consoli 0309-2015, and the framework that you would choose would now be an IFRS SME consolidation or an IFRS consolidation, depending on the framework that you're wanting to use. So let's go IFRS SME consolidation. Methodology, unless you want to do an audit, probably going to be compilation. I'll just select compilation from here, press enter, and it's going to create this file. The only real additional step other than editing the financial statements is going to be to go to my working trial balance, and in my working trial balance, becoming ever more pushed to the right hand side, we have this little consolidation window. Just waiting for all the screens to update again so that everybody can see where I'm about to press. Okay, so we've got this consolidation window. Then we go and click on it, and it opens up this window. It basically goes through your entire client list once again. Okay, The process now is a case of going and selecting which files you're actually wanting to consolidate. So let me go and consolidate this training client that I created. And I'm going to call it the holding company. So you would need to then go for every one that you tick, go and specify where it sits in the company structure. So this first one is a holding company, and I have got a little demo. If you're not seeing the screen, don't worry, I'm just going and selecting it, scrolling down to select a second one, and the second one I'm going to call my subsidiary. So I think either my internet or GoToWebinar has suddenly gotten quite a bit slower, so I'm not sure if you're able to see everything correctly. It's not showing that it's updating at all on my side anymore. Hopefully you will all catch up. Okay, I see it's coming through now. All right, so I've gone and selected a holding company subsidiary, and now I need to also tell the system which years to consolidate. And if you can, it's always best to consolidate prior year 2 and prior year 1 so that the cash flow information becomes a little bit easier. All right, so there are the items ticked in the bottom right, and I'm going to click on the consolidate option. It then will go through to those two files on my computer, and it pulls in the trial balance information from both. Okay. When I get to my working trial balance now, there is an additional 2 columns added on the left-hand side, and the one is for client and the other one is for an indication of whether it's holding or subsidiary. Now obviously the process of consolidation is a lot more complicated than just quickly pulling in the 2 trial balances. There are going to be elimination journals that you need to process, and there's calculations and things that you need to do to get your trial balance correct. I'm not going to go through the detail of that now. I just wanted to show you, once you've consolidated, if, for instance, you have done journals in your holding company and you need to update that information, there is the option, if you open up that consolidation window once more, basically to go and refresh your opening balances. So the client files are listed at the top that are included in this consolidation. If you've done any journals, you can go and refresh opening balances. I do just want to point out that the assumption here is that the adjustments are only in the current year in that holding company and subsidiary. If you do need to do prior year adjustments as well, you will need to reconsolidate and pull in the balances afresh. So we're only able to pull in changes that have happened in the current year. And that's where you would just use this refresh opening balances. It just basically goes through those files again and pulls in the current year balances as well. Okay, so it's going to just ask you to confirm, do you want to refresh? And in this case, I'll say yes. It just pulls in the balances for me again. Okay. When I open up my financials, again, as I say, I'm not going through this in detail, just to show you what the balance sheet looks like. You'll see that it is a 4-column set of financial statements in the consolidation templates rather than the 2-column that's available elsewhere. The normal process of editing your financials would obviously continue from this point on. Anything that you do in any other file you'd need to do here, except you'd obviously need to add all those consolidation journals as well. Okay. Now the last topic then that I will address until we get to questions is letterheads. Okay. Now if you open up the letterheads tab in your financial statements, this will also work in some engagement letters in Excel, you'll see that there's the option, and it's small, and if anybody from Enslin's is watching, we're using your letterhead. I was testing it the other day. We were doing some testing, and yours is one of the better ones that we have to test with. You can go and specify where exactly you're wanting to put letterhead 1, and you have the option of putting in a second letterhead as well. But where do these options come from? And that sits in our Draftworx setup Okay, and again, just want to let everybody see where I'm clicking. All right, so it's the settings under File Settings. When I click that, it opens up. I'm just going to scroll. At the bottom of the main screen, you'll see that there is a letterhead setup section. And here you would go and put in details of your report header, your report footer, as well as the option for a second header and footer. You've got an option for another footer, and also the option for a cover image. If you like having a nice picture on the cover page of your financials and it's always going to be the same, you can actually go and specify that as well. Just put in the details. You can use the little dots on the right-hand side to select the file and find your way to the correct file that you want to import, and that then will create this option for you to go and insert letterhead. So it's in the settings. I would click on Save once you have made any changes, and then simply clicking, in this case, Report Audit. Let's go to the audit report, print, and I'm just going to preview the sheet so that you can have a look what it looks like. And there it has gone and put the letterhead and footer in for me on my audit report. Okay, the reason that there are multiple options here, sorry, I might have done that too quickly. I'll go back. The reasons why there are multiple options is you could have one letterhead for your audit report and a different letterhead for your compilation report. Let's say you are sister firms, one does the audit, the other does the actual financial statement preparation. You can go and then have different letterheads in the same print if you print an audit report as well as a compilation report. So I'll just quickly do a preview and then you can have a look just what that letterhead looks like. Okay. All right, so that's letterheads. If there are any additional issues or problems with it, Matlodi, please hop onto remote support and we can help you out. If you do insert a letterhead and it stretches or it looks wrong, please pop us an email, support@dataprime.co.za. I'll put that up again in a moment. It could be just due to the size. We can help you just identifying what size the actual image needs to be in pixels, and if you've got a graphic designer or whoever working on it, they can then create it specifically for the size that you are needing. Okay. Okay, Jason, a question about the letterhead file format. I would need to double check. The preference is a PNG file. So that it's a image. I think in some cases we have been able to put in PDFs, but there are complications. But I think generally a PNG or a JPEG, there you should be fine. It can slow things down if you try and use an uncompressed file like a BMP or a TIFF file. That can slow down the print preview process. PNG, JPEG, generally the ones that we will use. Okay.
Then just to add one or two words on creating your own template, it is possible to do so within Draftworx. So if you find yourself always wanting to change one particular paragraph or word in the financials that you just don't like what's in our template, it is possible to do so. The process would be to just go and make those changes in one file, and you can then actually copy it to the templates folder within Draftworx, which is found in your C drive under users, public documents, Data Prime, Draftworx, new user data, frameworks, for instance, if it was going to be under a framework, and you'd create a new folder and actually go and paste it there. We wouldn't recommend putting it under, for instance, your IFRS SME framework and replacing, because when we do an update, we might replace that file. But just do be aware that if you do make use of your own template, you do need to make sure that you keep your own template up to date. We can't do that automatically for you from a distance. So if there are updates, you would need to just go and make sure that if there are any changes that you need to make on your financials to bring them up to the same standard as what we're using on our side as well. But as I say, just to make you aware of that fact, if you do want to chat more about it or look at the options, then please hop onto remote support or drop us a line at support@dataprime.co.za. We'd love to help you and take you through the process.
Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions coming in, so I think I'll start preparing to sign off. Thank you once again for everybody who has tuned in. It's great. It's been great to have you all. It's been great to learn with you guys. Go out there, enjoy Draftworx. Please, if you have thoughts, suggestions, ideas, problems, please hop on to support@dataprime.co.za. Send us emails, let us know. A lot of what you see in Draftworx, a lot of the features that we have are thanks to contributions from our clients, and we would love to continue helping you and providing you with a piece of software that works for you, works in your organization. So thanks very much. So have a fantastic day, and yeah, hope to see you all in training sessions again in future. That's all for me. Thanks very much. Goodbye.